You're listening to Table for Five with Felicia and Annette, only on LA Talk Radio.
You've seen the view. You've heard all the real talk. Now have a seat at our table. A table for five.
Good Monday morning,
Good
everyone.
Monday morning.
Yes, it is Monday.
Yes.
This is really loud.
Is it? Do you need me to adjust it?
Maybe just a little. I don't think it's not going to work on there.
Oh,
but that's fine.
It's your board.
Yeah. It's mine.
It's
all
your
good.
fancy board.
It's my fancy board. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Table for Five with Felicia and Annette. I'm Felicia.
I'm Annette.
And good Monday morning to you, the listening and viewing audience, where you will always have a seat right here at this table, Table for Five.
Yes.
Today is Monday, November 5th, 2018. Yes. We are on the heels of the election. I know.
Tomorrow's a big day for our country.
Yes. Everybody get out there and vote.
Exercise your right.
Yes, but we have a great, fantastic show for you today. So we would like to welcome everyone here at the table. We've got callers. We've got a lot of things going on this morning. So stay tuned. We're going to jump right in. I'm going to let you take it away.
Yeah, we're just going to
jump on in.
Yeah, do our normal housekeeping that we like to let everybody know how to follow us and find us when we're not on the air, because we're on the air on Monday and Wednesdays from 11 to 12 here on latalkradio.com, and if you're watching us on Facebook Live. Also, you can follow us on all our social media platforms, which are Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and our website, which we like to call our one-stop shop, where you can find out all about our wonderful guests, our topics, and what's coming up. And go to our gallery page, and you can see our past shows, and then you can advertise with us. There's a little tab on there. You could click on it, and you get all the information on how to advertise with us. And also, there's a little contact page where you can just put in your email, nothing else. We don't want any other information from you, but just your email, and you will get our weekly, bi-weekly, right?
Yes.
Bi-weekly newsletter,
Two
which
newsletters.
lets you know what the show's about and how to contact our guests, and also things that are coming and anything that's pertinent to that month. So just there's a lot of information, but you can find out. And just go to our website. Everything's on our website.
Yes. So great. And you if you subscribe to the website, then you will subscribe to the newsletter. I'm sorry. Then you would know that we're having an amazing show today. Very important topic on shedding the light on brain aneurysms. I know it's a tough subject, and people tend to get a little put off by it. We don't want to talk about brain aneurysms. At least, well, my husband, for one, he gets very squeamish about it. But we've got in-studio guests on our special call-in guest, Todd Crawford, founder and executive director of the Lisa Foundation, www.lisafoundation.org. And we're going to have a message here in a little bit, if we can get it working, from Chris Sorensen. She was credited with being the first survivor of the Lisa Foundation. The information that she got from the Lisa Foundation. So she's a survivor and an advocate for the Lisa Foundation. And in studio today, we have with us our very special guest, Diana-Acuña. Along with her husband, Alex Acuña. And Diana, is a survivor. So welcome. I'm going to unmute our guest, Todd. Todd, are you there? Good morning.
I'm here. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you. I'm going to give everyone a little round of applause here.
Yes, you're welcome. Well, I'm just going to formally introduce Todd Crawford, founder and executive director of Lisa Foundation. On March 19, 2015, Todd Crawford received the phone call that would change his life forever. His wife, Lisa Colagrassi, a beautiful, loving wife and mother of 2 young boys, and a very well-known television journalist for ABC News, had experienced a brain aneurysm rupture while on assignment in New York City. What started from the unconditional love Todd felt for Lisa and their 2 boys has quickly grown to one of the most respected and credible non-for-profit organizations. Lisa Colagrassi Foundation has emerged as the leader, awareness, and education for brain aneurysms in the United States. Just 3 months after launching, the foundation was credited with saving the life of a brain aneurysm survivor and has been credited with saving many more lives around the world. For more information about what we're going to be talking about today and about the Lisa Foundation, go to www.lisafoundation.org, www.lisafoundation.org, and that'll be on our website, it's on our Facebook page, and it's on our Instagram, on our all our social media platforms. And also, I just want to introduce our in-studio guest, Diana and Alex Acuña. Diana's a survivor. In September of 2016, standing over the sink washing dishes, Diana realized something wasn't right. No excruciating headache or recognizable symptoms, just a gut reaction. Her husband, Alex, was home, so rather than lay down, she told him, call 911 for the beginning battle of a lifetime. She was suffering from a
subarachnoidal hemorrhage.
That's what she had, a brain bleed. Deanna spent the next 3 weeks in intensive care, constantly surrounded by her family and covered in prayer. They are here to share their miraculous stories. So we have a powerful show.
Yes, very powerful.
Of hope.
Yeah, I do believe that is going to be the underlining message here today is hope, and hopefully educating people, getting the word out and information out that there are hope for people to be able to survive this tragedy. I don't know how else to explain it, but thank you for being here and sharing your story.
It's our privilege.
And Todd, thank you for being on the phone and speaking with us today. I know that you're very busy. And we so appreciate your time this morning.
Yeah. I want to ask you, Todd, when you got that call, I mean, I watched your videos, and you mentioned there were symptoms that your wife was experiencing. Can you share what those symptoms were and what we should be aware of, what you call now the silent killer?
Well, good morning. For Lisa, it was, she experienced worst headache of life for several weeks prior to her full category 5 rupture. And, she would walk through the door. It would happen maybe a couple times a week over a period of about 5 or 6 weeks. And, she even walked through the door one day, and I got up to greet her as she was coming through the front door, and the first thing she did was clutch her head and said, my head is absolutely killing me. I have the worst headache of my life. And I said, don't you think we should, go see somebody about this, because you've been complaining these headaches for several weeks. And, she was a picture of health. Nothing wrong with her more than the common head cold. And for these massive sudden onset headaches to come out of nowhere alerted me that, maybe something was wrong. But the issue was that we kind of felt like we were all alone. Nobody had ever communicated directly with men and women across this country about, brain aneurysms. So we didn't know what to look for. We didn't know that she was experiencing one of the classic warning signs, and we had no idea what to do about it. And for us, the last night with her was the night before March Madness NCAA basketball games kicked off, and we were all huddled around the kitchen table filling out our brackets with our 2 young boys, and talking about how we were going to get together when she got home the next day from work and huddle around the TV to see whose bracket would be busted first. Was naturally going to be hers, because she went to West Virginia and picked them to win it all. But, the call came at 9 o'clock the next morning that she had a Category 5 rupture, and the neurosurgeons had her, and they said, we don't know why. And I said, you need to check her head. She's been complaining of these massive headaches for several weeks. You need to check her head. And sure enough, they went back and did some additional imaging and called me back about 30 minutes later and said, she's had a subarachnoid hemorrhage. You need to get here as quickly as possible. And that was basically, at that point, she was on life support, and was just to keep her on life support until we could get all the family members in to say our goodbyes.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow. So the night before, did she have a headache, or it was just
the headaches are for those who experience them are not every day. And it could be just a couple times a week. It could be 3 days out of the week. The key is that for the symptoms of the best known symptoms of a brain aneurysm, they are sudden onset. You could be fine 1 second, and all of a sudden the next second, talking to somebody, it comes out of nowhere. So the top symptoms are worst headache of life, sensitivity to light, a sharp pain above or behind one of your eyes, stiffness of neck, and blurred vision. So the worst headache of life, when I say it's the worst headache of life, and that is the number one symptom for those who experience symptoms, it is the absolute, feels like a lightning bolt has hit you. It is sometimes referred to as a thunderclap headache. Because it literally feels like your head is going to explode. And for those who experience regular severe migraines, if you experience the worst headache of your life, you know it's very different from even the worst migraine, and it is very unusual. It is a sudden onset, comes out of nowhere, and you feel like your head's going to explode.
So there is a difference then between people who are suffering from migraines and someone who would be having an aneurysm, because I wanted to talk a little bit about that too. Like, people who have migraines that have been diagnosed, you're kind of like, is there a difference? Is there not? Like, or if you've never had, a migraine before, how do you tell, is this a migraine? Could this be an aneurysm? Do we want to have people like, oh my gosh, should they be aware if they've never had a headache like this before?
And the key is that with for those who experience severe migraines and for those who experience worst headache of life, it's a sudden onset that comes and goes. So it is a very unusual headache, because at that point what's happening is blood is beginning to leak into the subarachnoid space in the brain, and it is such a sensitive cavity, and so you feel literally like it is a very extremely excruciating, debilitating headache, unlike anything that you have ever had before. And again, sudden onset can come out of nowhere, and 10 minutes later you could be okay.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, and I encourage people to go to the website, because the little synopsis that you just gave us about the story, you have a video on there that goes into a little bit more detail. It's very emotional. I was not going to cry during this show. I try very hard not to. But it's just anyone that has a family, will definitely feel this. And we want to also first, say that we are so sorry for the loss of your wife, because, we understand that she was just amazing in the community, and she sounded like an amazing mother. Oh my gosh, this is not good. But go ahead, because I lost my train of thought.
So one of the things you said, there's early detection. What can we do? Yeah. What are the signs or treatments or things that we can do that we can take care of early detection for something like this? It seems so sudden.
Well, the screening and treatment capabilities have evolved and come so far over the last 15 years. I mean, I wish everybody in the country, through their health plans, were able, and qualified for an annual screening like females are for breast cancer every single year. Because if you are screened through an MRI or MRA, which is actually the preferred method of screening, MRA is a version of an MRI that focuses exclusively on the blood vessels in the brain. If we can detect brain aneurysms, they can be very successfully treated. Over about 70% of all aneurysms that are diagnosed today are treated endovascularly, where they go in with a catheter through your thigh up into the brain, and will insert a combination of coils and stents to divert the flow of blood away from the aneurysm and to seal the aneurysm off.
Yes, there are many.
The treatment's very successful if an aneurysm is diagnosed and caught before a rupture occurs.
Right. So you would just, let's say I would go in and ask my doctor for an MRI, like part of my physical. Is that what you're suggesting people should be doing?
No,
I think people.
No, because we have to be careful. I mean, first of all, if you're experiencing one of the symptoms that I mentioned, and there are a whole host of others that we list on our website at lisafoundation.org, what you should do is seek emergency medical attention. So either call 911 or get yourself to the emergency room right away.
That's for those symptoms.
Right.
Now, you had mentioned
Yes.
that weeks prior, she was having headaches.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever think about talking to her doctor or going to the doctor just to like, hey, I think, is something going on? I know that you had mentioned to her, should we go and seek on the day of that she was, feeling really, really badly. But prior to, we don't think about talking to our doctors. Did you guys ever talk about that or discuss that or?
No, and for, because like a lot of women, Lisa was, one of the women love to,
Yes.
they're just going to power through.
Yes.
Right? They're just going to ignore the symptoms, ignore what their body is telling them, and because they've got too much going on in life, too much going on at work, and too much with family and everything else that they do, because you really are the glue and the engines that make the family run. And so you just miss your own health and symptoms in many cases and say, you know what, I'll put that off until tomorrow. And by the way, would not have been the right thing to do, because Lisa was experiencing one of those classic warning signs that is an emergency situation. You would not want to go, if you're experiencing one of those symptoms I discussed, you would not want to go have a consultation with your family doctor. You want to seek emergency medical attention right away.
Right away.
Now, I read on the site somewhere that women are most likely to have.
I wanted to talk about the risk factors.
Yeah.
There are several different risk factors that you talk about on the website. Can you discuss them? Because some of them are like your health, your race, your gender. I found them very interesting. Go ahead, Todd.
Yeah, I would say let's begin with aneurysms overall and potential prevalence. So this is something that affects up to 15 million people throughout the U.S., which is the equivalent of 1 out of every 20 people.
Yeah.
And
It's a lot.
females between the ages of females are 50% more at risk, particularly if you're a female between the age of 40 and 55. So, and Hispanics and African Americans are 25 to 30% more likely to develop a brain aneurysm. So this is a very, very big problem in the country, and the reason that some of the risk factors that you asked about are smoking, hypertension is a risk factor, drug and alcohol abuse, particularly cocaine. And there is a very big, hereditary component to this as well. So if you're somebody who has, one or more family members have had a brain aneurysm in your family, you should have, be on heightened alert and be more aware about brain aneurysms in general.
Yes,
than some others.
Yes. Wow. And we talk about the different, so you touched a little bit on the different types of tests. Say you are going to become an advocate for yourself and you are listening to the show, or you've gone on your website and you have a family history. I want to talk a little bit about the different tests that you can maybe talk to your doctor about for early detection. I know that you had mentioned the MRA. And there's also an MRI and a CT scan. Can you explain to us the difference between the MRA and an MRI a little bit?
Yeah, in layman's terms, and because I want to make it clear that I'm not a medical professional, so I don't want to get into the scientific, or the minutia about this. But an MRA basically is a version of an MRI. An MRA uses contrast and focuses in exclusively on the blood vessels in the brain. So the MRA is really the preferred method of scanning and trying to detect a brain aneurysm.
Yes. Yeah.
They can be picked up through CT scan. They can be picked up through MRI, but they're not always picked up through those methods, and that's why I say MRA is the preferred method, because the imaging through an MRA focuses exclusively on the blood vessels in the brain, and what you're looking for is that what a brain aneurysm is a weakening wall of one of the blood vessels, and that as a result of the flow of blood over time against that weakening wall, it eventually bulges out and forms a bubble, much like a car tire would or a bike tire. And when that bubble forms, it is can be very prone to rupturing.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry.
That's when you run into big trouble.
Yeah.
I don't want to run out of time without asking you, what is the goal of the Lisa Foundation?
So the Lisa Foundation was created because Lisa experienced one of the classic warning signs. And again, we had no idea, because nobody had ever attempted to communicate directly with men and women across the country about what a brain aneurysm is, or risk factors, or who's most at risk, or anything. So we have emerged very quickly over the last couple of years as the nation's leader in generating national awareness and educating the public about brain aneurysms. We've launched two consecutive campaigns, national awareness campaigns across the country, the most recent of which we did 2 months ago with Whoopi Goldberg. She, at the very heart of that campaign, is a public service announcement, which Whoopi produced for us, because she paid tribute to my wife the morning after Lisa passed away, and just 6 weeks later, Whoopi lost her own brother the exact same way.
Wow.
So what we're trying to do, honestly, if you boil down the layers, is we're trying to create a national conversation about brain aneurysms in this country, much like what's been done for decades by Susan G. Komen Foundation and Autism Speaks and the American Heart Foundation about their respective causes. We want to make sure that men and women across the country and families understand what brain aneurysms are, that they begin to have a conversation with one another and their family practitioner about brain aneurysms, and be able to recognize if they experience one of the classic symptoms, begin to recognize those symptoms, and that we urge emergency medical attention. We urge action. Know what to do about it if you experience one.
Yeah, fantastic. Amazing. And I encourage everyone, again, to go to your website. The website is just so informative. It's very easy to navigate. And I wanted to, before we go really quickly, I wanted to talk about, you have information on there for survivors, which I think is fantastic, that there are different support groups in Florida, in Maine, New Jersey, and in New York. Do you have any plans, we're talking about moving the foundation forward. I love the idea of it becoming synonymous with, brain aneurysms. Like you said, the Susan G. Komen Foundation is synonymous with breast cancer. And I think this, foundation has the ability to do that too. Do you have any plans to move those support groups that are supported by the foundation westward?
I think it's a very good question, and I've said from day one that over time this foundation, the Lisa Foundation, will become synonymous with brain aneurysms and will become a household name throughout the country, much like Susan G. Komen has for breast cancer. We do have great interest and plans that we are currently talking about to with several stakeholders right now about moving into the research and support areas in a bigger way. And national awareness, and educating the public across the country will always be our number one focus and priority. But you will see us do some things in the research and support and other areas that are much needed and very, very important, and we will bring an entirely new approach to those areas, much like what we've done with awareness and education than what's ever been seen in this industry.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Bravo.
Thank you so much for your bravery. Thank you so much.
And honoring your wife through this foundation. You've turned a tragedy for your family into something that hopefully can help, we pray,
save lives.
Millions of people.
Yeah. Thank you. Definitely. Thank you, Mr. Crawford.
Thank you,
Todd Crawford.
You're welcome.
We will continue to promote your endeavor on our social media platforms and get the word out there.
Yeah. We so appreciate your time and continued success with this foundation.
All the best.
Thank you. Same to you.
All right. God bless. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Wow.
All right.
Yeah, so
did we have the
no,
video?
We don't.
Okay.
Because it's still, the video was shot in some issue with the way it was shot. So we just do want to tell you that we'll have it on our social media platforms. You can get it on our Instagram and on our Facebook page. We're working on fixing the way it came through, but it was, her name is Chris Sorensen, and she was the first survivor that was a byproduct of his PSA, if you will. He was doing an interview on the Glenn Beck show, and her sister was watching the show and realized that the symptoms that he was discussing on the Glenn Beck show were symptoms that her sister was experiencing. So she called her sister and said, you need to go to the hospital now.
Well, she was going to, she was having a doctor's appointment.
Right.
Yeah. With her doctor.
And by the time she got there, sure enough, she was experiencing a brain aneurysm, and sure enough, had surgery and is alive and well.
Yeah, here to tell the story.
So that was a video that we were going to put up, but you'll see it on our social media. You'll catch it on our Facebook.
Yeah, and she's amazing story herself.
The flip side to his pain is his bravery to save other lives, and our honor and privilege is to have a survivor. And I've known Diana and Alex for many years. We go to the same church, and I had mentioned her when we talked about the show, and I hadn't seen you. And then 2 Sundays ago, I was home watching live stream, and there she was on the screen. I was like, oh my gosh, there she is. Let me see if I have her phone number. And I texted her while she's on the podiums, doing the worship set. And I'm like, hey, you think you could come and share your story and because we're doing this show and it's a call-in, and it would be so beautiful to have a face to a miracle, have a face to something that, somebody came out on the other side, have a face to a family that walked through this together. So thank you both for being here.
Yes, thank you
It's
so
amazing.
much.
This is amazing. And I want people to know that if you get to the hospital in time, you can be sitting with your family and walking out on the other side, right? Isn't that great? So tell us what you remember from that day.
Okay. Well, as he was saying, I get migraine headaches, and I've had migraine headaches for years.
Oh, wow.
So you have.
So so when they say watch out for headache, I haven't had that thunderclap different one. My headaches have all been kind of the same. So, and they're periodically, I'll go 2 weeks without one, and then they'll show up. But at any rate, my son had gotten his tickets for America's Got Talent, and I was going to go pick up the grandkids and zip over and pick up his wife, and they were going to drive down and go see America's Got Talent. So I'm cleaning up the kitchen just to be sure I'm ready to go. And as I was standing over the sink, all of a sudden, there was a heaviness at the back of my head, and it almost felt like I was going to fall backwards. It's the strangest thing I've ever had. When I get migraines, all the things he said will be sensitivity to light, tense in the shoulders, and sometimes by night. But this was none of that. And so I went to sit down, and I thought, oh, this is so strange. I'm just going to sit down for a minute.
This is so strange. I'd be like,
Well, but it wasn't pain. And my husband, Alex.
So you're not alarmed. You're like, I've had headaches that are feel worse
and
than this.
women, we do. We say, well, it'll pass.
Rationalize it away.
And my husband was supposed to be at work that day, but for some reason he wasn't. And the way our house is, where I sat down, he was directly across from me, doing some work on his computer. And so I thought, okay, I'm good now. I'm going to get up. And I went to stand up, and again, I thought, oh no, this isn't good, because I thought I'll put some ice, I'll get in the car, I'm going to go pick up the kids. That would have been a catastrophe. And so I looked at it and I said, Alex, he said, what is it? And I could see by his face that he saw something in my face. And are you okay? I said, I just don't feel right. And he said, what is it? And I explained to him about the heaviness. And he said, should I call 911? And to my surprise, because I'm usually like, no, it'll pass, I said, yes. So,
Wow.
It's not like me. I'll just lay down, I'll be fine.
Yeah.
I'll get ice.
God,
I'll get my Imitrex. And so the paramedics came.
Did you feel like it could have been migraine related? Like as you're sitting there thinking maybe this is just a weird...
Actually, no, because it wasn't pain. That was what was so strange. And the paramedics came in, and I described to them what happened, and I said, I do get migraines. They said, oh, this is probably complex migraine. I said, but I never I'm seeing like almost like lightning bolts in front of my eyes, which I never have that kind of an aura with my migraines. Something was different. So they said, well, it's probably complex migraine. Do you want to just make an appointment with your doctor or they can drive you over? So I started doubting myself, of course, what do we even call 911 for?
Right.
And so I looked at Alex, I said, what should we do? And then there were 3 men there and one said, you know what? Her husband said he wanted us to bring her to the emergency. That's what we're going to do. Good. So let's go.
Thank God for him.
Yeah. And, go with your gut feeling. And so we went to the emergency room, and we were there for about an hour. And again, I'm seeing all these people that are really sick, and I didn't have that. And I thought, wow, maybe this is a mistake. And so finally they called us in. It was very busy. And they said, your husband has to wait out there. And they said again, describe what's going on. And I told them, I said, well, just to be safe, we'll do a CAT scan. So I said, okay. They did it, and I was sitting in the waiting room, and the doctor came back with a completely different face and said, how long have you had this headache? I said, I don't have a headache. And he said, your brain is bleeding.
Oh, my God.
And I said, can I call my husband now? And he said, go get him. And
you're still, like, at this point, you're feeling semi-okay?
Yes.
Or
just
you're
different, still not in pain. Just,
do you
something's
still have this
wrong.
heaviness? Or
Yes. And, by that time I was just laying down. They didn't want me to move or do anything. And so, first thing we said, call the church, let's start praying, call my brother, he's a radiologist in D.C., and call the family, of course. And so my brother found out that he saw the CAT scan, which showed it was a subarachnoid hemorrhoid, not a hemorrhoid, hemorrhage. I wish.
Right?
Subarachnoid.
Oh, my God.
And said, oh, you guys need to move on this immediately. And so the hospital I was at doesn't do those kind of things. So they were trying to get me to a different hospital, and one opened up, so I went on another ambulance to another hospital, and we got there. And again, Alex remembers this more than I do. I remember they were calling a doctor and said, well, I can get there tomorrow. And I think my son said, look, I'm going to wrap her up and take her out if you don't come tonight, because this is.
Yeah.
And when I was laying
Did
on
they not understand that it needed?
I don't know, because one doctor, I remember I was laying on the gurney. I just have assorted memories, and she looked at me and I said, how you doing? I said, good. She said, you should be dead right now. You shouldn't be talking to me. You shouldn't be looking at me. And some people
had it already ruptured. So you had the aneurysm, and then it had ruptured, and you were then leaking blood. So there essentially
was already
into your brain.
Blood in my brain, and it was still leaking.
Oh my
and the people said, weren't you angry? I said, no, because I think I recognized that if I was still here talking, that I said, there's the answer to prayer. God hears my prayers. My family's here, and it's good.
Yeah.
So the doctor at that hospital, they did an MRA with contrast, and realized he was not able to perform the procedure necessary because of where it was and what was going on at the second hospital.
Oh my gosh.
So so they were trying to get a hold of UCLA, where there was a very good neurosurgeon there, and they said, Neil Martin, and who actually retired 6 months after my surgery. Thank God. Goodness. I said, well, if that has to happen, thank goodness it happened then, right?
Yeah.
And they said, well, he said he will take the case, but there are no beds in the ICU. So we waited for 2 hours on the bed, and lo and behold, one opened up, and I went for my third ambulance ride to UCLA, and they said they couldn't see the scan well. It wasn't clear. They'd need to do another one, but they were concerned about my kidneys because of the contrast.
Oh, my gosh.
So they finally decided, let's go ahead and do it, and they got a good clear one, and exactly what he described. It looked like a bubble. He drew a picture, said, this is what's in your head, and it's leaking. And he said, I could try and go in one way and do like this. He said, but chances are you'll be in here in a few months with something else. Or he said, we should go in and clip it. And I just said, go ahead, open it up, clip it up, and let's be done with it. And
so it was swollen. It hadn't ruptured.
It was leaking. It was already bleeding.
Yeah.
So it was ruptured, but it hadn't popped yet. And we needed to get it before that continued.
Yeah.
So
what's going through your mind? Because we're going to get to what's going through your mind. But what's going through your head when you're hearing all of this and the severity of it? This is serious.
You know, I think it's, have you ever been in a situation where you're not nervous until afterwards?
Just the calmness.
It was, because I'm kind of an anxious person sometimes. And there, you know, and I was surrounded. Alex was there. My kids were there. I know they were talking to my brother, who knows about these things and was the one that was also pushing, saying, no, you need to get her out of there. You need to get her someplace. They have to, there's a window of time here, and you need to get this done immediately. And so that he ended up taking me in at midnight and doing the surgery and overnight, and it went well. Alex was waiting with everybody, and I just remember when I woke up in the bed and in the recovering, you know, they'd have, UCLA as a teaching, so they have different doctors coming in like every 30 minutes and they'd say, what's your name? Can you raise your hands? Where are you? What's the year? And so after about the 5th time this happened, they walked in, I said, Diana Acuña, I'm in Westwood. I raised my arms, and they just laughed, and they said, wow, I guess we have to come up with some harder questions
So
for
this
you.
was immediately following the surgery?
This was after when you wake up. But then I did, this is where I'm a little confused. I had some vasospasms, which is where afterwards you can have spasms going on in the brain. So they had to go in, I don't even know how they did it, with some medication on the arteries or whatever was spasming, because I think I started talking nonsense and they knew something was up. So they had to go back in a couple of times. And then after that, I laugh and say I had my rainbow bright hairdo. They put like 16 needles in my head, which I didn't feel them putting in, and they're all attached to wires. And the technology is amazing.
It's amazing.
It's
brain
amazing.
surgery is it's brain surgery.
And every morning they would come in and do something, and she'd have this computer, and you'd see all the colors, and she would be able to see exactly what was going on, and if there were any more spasms going on, and you know, if things were holding. And
how long did it take you to recover where you felt like yourself again?
Well, I was in ICU for about 3 weeks, and then they said, how are you feeling? You know, you saw a picture there of my grandkids. When I finally, at the last day or two, I was in a regular room, and so we started walking. I did laps around the ward, and my granddaughters were going with me, and you know, they brought in a picture with all my family. We got 9 grandkids, 5 kids, and had pictures all up on the wall, and that is such inspiration and incentive, you know, that they're all there. And after that, you know, they said, well, do you feel comfortable going home? I said, I would love to go home. And they said, well, usually we would put you in for occupational, for physical therapy for another week. But we think you might be okay going home. I said, yes, I'm comfortable. I said, another week in another facility? No, thank you. And so I went home, and it's true. You know, I was in very good shape. I had just had a physical the 2 weeks before I had the aneurysm, and came out with flying colors, very healthy. You know, we're active, and
your cholesterol, blood pressure,
everything was good.
Everything was fine. Everything was normal.
So, and then even with the physical therapy, I went in and she tested my balance and my strength, and said, wow, you look really great. And she just gave me exercise to help strengthen again when you're laying in a bed for that long, to be able to stand up easily. And so I would say the only thing even mentally that I knew, because there are a lot of side effects you can have afterwards, or complications with your vision. You can lose use of one of your limbs, or speech.
Many different things.
Exactly. And all of that was together. I think the only thing I remember is going home, and usually, you know how you do the keypad for your alarm, and you just automatically do it. And I thought, I don't remember what the but you know, that was the extent.
I want to go back and talk a little bit about like your surgery. So when you say like surgery, like we kind of skated over it a little bit.
Yeah.
Did you have a full craniotomy?
I did. You know, we had a picture. We thought that might be a little bit too graphic.
I think I saw it. You showed it to me one time after church, and it's like the whole side of her head. It's like,
it's the
my
whole
gosh.
right side of my head. They shaved, left a little there, and there's a big seat. So I have a dent here. I call it my little canyon. It starts up here, right above here, and goes all the way around to my ear, where they lifted it up. I had staples in my head, and
pass out right now.
it was completely opened up. And I remember, you know, that's why I said I'm kind of, some of those days just kind of went in a haze. I remember having headaches, And they had trouble with, because your brain starts doing things, trying to fix it. Potassium problems where, like, you can't drink any water. I was like, and I was so thirsty. I said, wait a minute. So I can have French fries and Coke, and I can't have a glass of water? They said, that's right. And I was like, oh, can I have ice? Give me ice. And,
wow.
Yeah.
So the body is a strange thing.
It is. It's an amazing, I was just getting ready to say, the brain and the body are an amazing thing. But this is the type of surgery that you have to have. Now, when they were in there, did they mention or did they say that they were going to look to see if you had any other aneurysms at all, or they could detect anything?
They took multiple. I was in that MRI machine all the time, CAT scans, and I mean they tested everything. And since then, after 6 months afterwards, I had another, or maybe it was 2 months. I don't remember. I had another MRA, and it came back, and I remember I was in the doctor's office, and she said, well, unremarkable. I said, yes! Oh, okay. So first time I was happy to hear unremarkable.
Yes.
That I am unremarkable.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'll take it.
Yeah,
Yes.
and the lady said, you know, you don't look like a 60-year-old woman who just had open brain surgery 2 months ago. And it is just so many prayers. It's such a miracle of God that everything just went like that.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
And they said that what they do is they go in and they literally start cleaning out the folds of your brain, trying to get all the blood out of there. And then he put a titanium clip where the aneurysm is to keep it from I guess bursting completely. And since then I've had 3 more MRAs, and they've all come back looking good.
Wow.
So,
and did you have any family history of it? Did you have anyone else in your family that has ever suffered anything like this?
No.
And did you know anyone? Like, did you have any friends?
Well,
or
we
relatives?
lost Scott
Our
Bauer,
pastor
dear friend,
Scott Bauer was right on the platform, kind of the same thing, and had the thunderclap headache. All of a sudden, it was like my head, and it was heartbreaking.
It was horrible.
Young man, beautiful
Horrible.
family, incredible ministry, and and that's when you look at it and say, but for the grace of God, I survived this.
Yeah, it was interesting when we got the call, because they were calling people from church and saying, you need to pray, and they started like a prayer chain, and you're because we're from the same church family, and we walked that loss of Scott Bauer,
So
Pastor
it was
Scott Bauer.
after.
Yeah. He passed 2 weeks before Paul was born, so that's why Paul's name is Paul Scott. But in any event, the gut feeling of no, not one of our church fam, no, we cannot.
Not
It was
again.
unbearable. It was almost like the news was like paralyzing, like no, we are not going to lose another one. No. It was just too much.
today.
But I wanted to ask Alex, when you are watching, because unfortunately Todd Crawford lost his wife, so now he's walking a life with 2 kids, and having Rebecca Bauer lost Scott. So we know, we've seen a little bit of, and you guys are more so have seen her journey. Knowing that, how did you, knowing the loss of Pastor Scott, you didn't know Todd, but how did you react in your heart and your mind to, oh my God, what is going on?
Yeah.
Did you
No, definitely. Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Yes, of course.
You can tell how Diana was feeling by the way she explained everything. So she never lost her mind. She was very lucid. She knew she can see, hear, and talk perfectly, which is one of the things that the doctor, the first time he came, before I answer your question, he was very impressed that to the point that he explained to us, my son Daniel and I were there, and we asked doctor, I said, doctor, this is after the surgery, so what is my mom's situation? He said, it's amazing because and he kind of point this way, 75% of what happened to Diana, they don't even make it to the hospital.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And so my son Daniel, he's very quick. He says, so what is the other 25%? And immediately, and this is a doctor that he didn't talk too much. He just was there very quiet.
Yeah.
He will answer if you ask him, but if you didn't ask, he won't say anything. That kind of a doctor. And So we said, doctor, what will happen? Where is my mother? And he said, well, she's in 1.0 or something like that, or 0.1. I don't remember exactly. And I just said, so what do that mean? Well, that's the other 25% will lose their speech. They will get like physical turn in their body, their neck, the whole figure will change, will become a different kind of person physically. And but Diana is not there. You will have your mother and your husband, and she said, and you will have your wife in 6 months.
Wow.
And so Diana really explained very well, because most of the things that she explained, I wasn't able to see or hear because I never went to the surgery room.
Right.
She was there with the doctors and the anesthesiologists and the cardiologists. So a lot of those things I really don't know. I only, as you can tell, I have an accent because I speak perfect Spanish, but not perfect English.
No, you're doing great.
So I had to translate everything. For me, all the scientific words, subarachnoid and angiogram and CAT scan and MRI and MRA and all that was very new for me, because I'm a musician. I'm not a doctor.
Yeah.
And so I went to the nurses and, please explain this. And I write it down, I Google it, because I also have to send this message to South America, to my family in Peru. So they all can pray. And actually, everything really boils down to the power of prayer for us. I know, we talk of Scott Bauer, who was a pastor, and he still went away. I'm sorry to say it that way, but was a straight ahead. My expression has to be just like that. But before Diana went to that, we used to pray a lot for healing in our home, in our lives. What happened is that in those days I received a word that Pastor Jack wrote a book. Jack Hayford wrote a book saying, prayer is invading the impossible. So I only can explain the spiritual side of the whole situation.
For sure.
Because I receive spiritually, the Lord said, this is now for Facebook, no pictures, no people that are not really strong Christian believers, warriors of God, that can really intercede for this moment. So Church on the Way was praying that night. It was a Wednesday, so they were praying before her surgery. Every time I travel, go to Japan, Australia, or any place like that, I meet pastors. And the beautiful thing that we have now with the internet, and we have phones, we have a messenger, so I call them. Prayers in Spain, in Greece, in Cuba, in Puerto Rico.
So you started reaching out.
Reaching to all the pastors and everything, because that's all I believe, really.
Yeah.
I don't have anything else, no knowledge about anything like that. And really, the whole situation was that God brought one of the #1 surgeons in this country. Dr. Neil Diamond.
Neil Diamond did the surgery.
And he sings.
You could tell he's a musician, right? That's the first name.
Neil Diamond, I love it. I love it. You are a surgeon now.
Oh
my gosh, that's good.
He was a blessing, you know, because he, my son Daniel, Googled him, and his picture was the #1 surgeon. How do you say?
Neurosurgeon?
Neurosurgeon in the country.
Wow.
And probably in the whole world. But anyhow, I just was there fasting and praying. I lost a lot of weight in those days. I was for a week not eating, just not sleeping. It was very tough to sleep. So when you ask me, now I can answer. How did I felt? Wow. There is no time to really feel afraid or scared or nervous. There is no time for that. Because you kind of just cruising, I mean, metaphorically speaking, aiming, standing very firm with an incredible belief knowing that victory was going to arrive already, because the things that we felt before it happened, all the details, we know that God is the God of details, little, medium, or small, or big, or huge, or whatever. He still takes care of that.
Yeah.
And I was just standing in that rock,
Amen.
mainly. That's the only thing I can say. The other details, I know it needs to be, how do you say it, explain, about all the neurological stuff. I really don't know much of that science.
Yeah.
But Todd explained it very well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Diana explained it very well.
Yeah,
about
yeah.
it, there were times, still sometimes, we go to bed and she goes sometimes early. She sleep before me, and I just get to bed and I touch her, and I feel an incredible electricity, a heavenly spiritual electricity, and I cry because she is alive.
Yes.
I mean, it really is that powerful. I understand why many people don't want to talk about this, because it's something that you see that is alive, that defeated death. That's exactly what it is.
Exactly.
And that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And so, have to be thankful all the time, and the joy of the Lord
Amen.
is our strength.
Amen.
And so, we thank everybody for really being there, worshiping, glorifying Him, and we gave an incredible testimony. They called me to go to Peru, talk to a church and things like that, how the power of God really was able to perform in this kind of situation, which is life and death. It's black and white.
It's black and white, life and death.
Yeah.
But the power of prayer, the power of love, it was incredible. That's why I'm a believer of community. Church community, because you know who to call. Call these people because they're like-minded and they have the strength to believe. And I love what you said about this wasn't for Facebook. This wasn't because everybody starts posting pictures, and you know what? That was such an spiritual discernment of you to say, because it's just fodder. People are going to go, oh my God, but they're not going to stop and pray.
Well,
It's
some
just
people might.
but he knew who to call.
Yeah.
Because his following
We all don't have
is not
pastors
like hundreds like
on our
ours.
speed
Yeah.
dial. Yes. I don't know any pastors in Peru.
Oh, you know Pastor Dan. You
do.
could call Pastor Dan.
You can call us.
Yes, you can call. You could call me.
I would call you. You would be the first one.
Yes,
that I would
exactly.
call. But
But
yeah,
this
I think having knowledge too. I think that's what
Huge.
needs to come out of this is giving people the information and the tools that it possibly could be survived. And I think that if we have early detection, because there are some times that people can get early detection. It's generally and usually by mistake. I mean, coming from the medical community, I just wanted to talk about real quick that I've seen aneurysms clipped off. I've seen these brain surgeries, and it's interesting because living in that world, it's like very common for me.
Right.
But for the rest of the world, it's not.
Yeah.
And you forget about that, and you don't think about that when you're living in the medical community. That it's not like everyone's not walking around that knows.
Right.
Oh, these are the signs and symptoms to look for. Or you can have a brain surgery, or if you just go in. But the majority of people that it's caught early, it's just by mistake.
Yeah.
And so, like Todd was saying, I really would love to get to the point where we could encourage people. And I don't know where it has to come from. If it has to come from the insurance companies, if it has to come from healthcare. But I think, one, we need to have better education, and two, we need to have mandatory screening. I think we need to have some type of screening so that people can be checked and we can understand and prevent this from happening.
Yeah.
Well,
He
this was
mentioned a couple of times, excuse me,
Yeah, go ahead.
to take the person to emergency.
Yes.
I think
It's
that's
really
that's the
important.
key
You
right
be an
there. That's
advocate
exactly
for your
what
family member and trust your instincts.
Yes.
Yes.
If you sense something's different, maybe you don't fall into the exact category. If you're in town, go check it out. Worst thing that can happen, which would be wonderful, is that it's nothing.
Right.
For joy.
Right,
But you
right.
could be saving your life or
Yeah.
your loved one's life.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
so
and
true.
it's a powerful message to us mothers too, fathers too, parents in general, and everyone really. But I understand what he was saying. You know, with
Yeah,
mothers, we're so busy. We're
Yeah.
always like, I'm gonna put it off. It's
Yeah.
okay.
Oh,
I'm gonna
yeah.
sit down.
Right.
I got 5,000 things to do. I don't have time for this. Ain't nobody got time for that.
Yes,
but
I
you
know.
need to make time.
Yeah.
You have to make time to listen to your body.
Yes,
Thank you
absolutely.
guys so much.
I know, this was amazing.
We are out
What
of
a
time.
blessing.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I'm so
Yes.
honored to
This
just
was an emotional
Yes,
show.
it was. This was I know how much I prayed and I cried for her, so I call it a privilege to see an answer to my prayers sitting here. What a powerful testimony.
Yes.
Thank you, Diana. Thank you, Alex, for just being
Yes.
so vulnerable and telling us, you know,
Yes.
what that
Sharing
felt
your
like.
story.
Yeah, sharing your story. But we want to thank you, our viewers and our listeners, for watching us. Catch us on Wednesday. We have another powerful show. And so we want you to enjoy your Monday. We hope you've been informed, educated, and entertained. Catch us next time on LA Talk Radio. Thank you so much. God bless. Bye.
Bye. Have a good week.
Bye.
Bye.
Ave María, yo no sabía.
You're listening to Table for Five with Felicia and Annette, only on LA Talk Radio.